something like that.
During the 2014 timeframe when you owned the office, did your mom work for you?
You could say that. Yeah.
Did she control the books?
She wrote the checks. Yeah, they had the checkbook at the house.
Now, was there any particular time that you would talk to your mom more often than other times?
Yeah, in the morning driving into work, I'd call my mom, and usually on the way home from work, I'd call them. Just depends on how long the drive was, really.
How involved was your mom in your life?
Business-wise, very involved because she was running the office. Personal-wise, I would tell them things and keep them up to date with stuff and my life. But it was my life. I did whatever I wanted to do.
We're going to get to this later, but how involved was your mom in your sister's life?
I think she was more involved. And I think my sister involved my mom maybe more. And it just depends on different issues.
I want to talk a little bit about your sister, Wendy. As adults, before she married Professor Markel, how often would you talk with her?
I'd call my sister, I'd say about every 10 days or so we'd talk. I'd call her, but she was busy and she wasn't real good with the phone. So I would call her and she would always take a day or two to call me back. I spoke to her half the time when I called. Half the time she didn't pick up. How
often would you see her, again, pre-marriage? How often would you see your sister?
Not a lot. In 1995, I left to go to college. In 97, she left to go to college up in Boston. So it was pretty much, I would say, holidays, like every 3-4 months. Thanksgiving, Christmas time, sometimes during the summer. So maybe 3-4 times a year I see her.
There came a time when Wendy started dating Professor Markel, right?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember when you first met him?
I do. I think he was in town, and I remember all of us going out to lunch. I think we went to a deli.
What did you think of him?
I thought he was a nice guy. He kind of seemed like all my other sister's boyfriends she's had in the past. I've never really had much in common with them. And he kind of seemed like the rest of them. But that was pretty much it.
Now, after they got married, what was your relationship like with Professor Markel?
It was the same as before they got married. We texted each other on our birthdays. I don't think we ever really called each other or hung out. I would just see him when he came over to the house with my sister.
And how often would you see him and your sister?
I would say twice a year, maybe, or roughly around there, maybe 3 times a year.
In the years that Professor Markel and your sister were married and living in Tallahassee, how often did you come to Tallahassee?
I'd only been to Tallahassee. I was there twice, I believe, when her children were born. And then once when I was working in Alabama. I had a research fellowship, and I was passing through Tallahassee. I spent the night with them, and I saw them that time too.
When Professor Markel and your sister were married, did you still communicate with your sister about the same amount of time?
It may have been a little less, because I remember when she had kids, she had even less time. So I probably spoke to her. I'd call her, and then probably more times than not, she didn't pick up the phone. And then I'd get a call back a couple days later. So it was pretty similar.
Did there come a time when you became aware that Wendy and Professor Markel were having marital issues?
Yes.
What did you learn?
I took my sister out to dinner when she had come to town, and we went to the melting pot. And I remember her telling me that they were having issues, and it was pretty serious.
Did she tell you that they were going through marriage counseling?
Yeah. that's when I found out, and I guess that's what I was going to say, is like, have you tried to work things out? And that's when I found out that they had been in counseling for 6 months. I didn't know about it before.
Now, what were some of the issues, if you remember, that she told you they were having?
He was becoming very, very religious. There was becoming issues with diet and how she was cooking in the house. She wasn't really respectful he wasn't really respectful of her career. He would belittle her. He obviously seemed like he lost his eye for her, and she seemed like she'd lost his eye for him, and she wasn't happy.
Now, did she complain about violence or danger or anything like that?
Never.
Did she complain that he was not a good father?
No, he was very attentive to his sons.